In this video, we are interested to understand this idea of demand. Now, what is demand? Demand is the quantity of goods and services that people want to buy at different prices. And so you basically ask a question, uh, what happens when you see a clearance, which is say 50%, 80%, 90% marked down, and hence you would end up paying lower prices. How would you react in terms of your behavior? Would you want to have more of that product, or would you want to have a less of that product? Obviously, when you see a markdown or clearance or prices going down, we would want to have more of that product, or at least there will be more customers who will be buying that product, and vice versa, which is higher prices tend to shy away people or customers, or we would want to buy less of that particular product. So this relationship between price and quantity demanded is perfectly captured by law of demand. And law of demand is basically saying that price and quantity demanded are inversely related. Of course, there are many factors other than the price which influence demand, but for the time being, we want to assume those factors to be constant and see just look at the influence or the relationship between price and quantity demanded. Now, there are three ways one can look at this relationship. One is through a table, other is through a graph, and third way one can look at it is through a mathematical equation. So let's consider hypothetical numbers. So we have price schedule, 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2, and say if you assume that at price of 10, 20 units are being demanded, then when price goes down, you would want to demand more. Remember, there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. And as the price keeps on falling, the demand will keep on going up, right? Uh, and that gives you your what is known as demand schedule. Now you can also perfectly capture this via a graph whereby you have price on vertical axis and quantity demanded on horizontal axis, and when you plot these numbers and join those points, you get what is known as a demand curve, right? And what does a demand curve tell you? That when price goes up, quantity demanded goes down, or when price goes down, quantity demanded goes up. Right? Again, that's what how we behave, and that's what the law of demand tells us. When you plot this, when you convert this into a mathematical equation, one can look at what is the relationship between price and quantity demanded. Of course, we know it's negative, right? And how much negative is it? It's by a factor of 0.2, right? Every 10 units, and it's every 2 rise over run is the slope, and then the vertical intercept is 14, right? And so this is the demand equation. The next question is, how does one get about market demand? Market demand is the sum of individual demand curves. So for example, say there is a price of 4, and customer 1 got 50 units, and customer 2 got 55 units, just making up numbers. Then if the market is made up of two customers, then at price of 4, the demand will be 105, right? So market demand is just a product or sum of individual demand curve for each price level. Next, we would want to look into factors which affects demand, but which are not prices, right? So these are the determinants of demand, and these factors affect demand. So demand goes up or demand goes down due to these forces, but these are not prices, right? And so think about income or wealth. Say when you have higher wealth or higher income, what happens to your demand, right? uh, when you have more money, you would want to buy more, and hence you would demand more, which is given represented by the shift of the demand curve on the right. However, for inferior goods, that's not the case, right? So if you consider any good to be inferior, when you have more money, you would buy less of those goods which are inferior. Next, one can think about the price of things which are related with each other. So the kind of relationship could be either complementary in nature or it could be substitute in nature. So take an example, the classic example, textbook case, the demand for jelly and price of jelly, right? And so if the price of peanut butter goes up, people would want to buy less of it, law of demand. But at the same time, the demand for jelly will also be lower because peanut butter and jelly are complementary in nature, so they go hand in hand. So if the demand curve was represented initially by D0, because peanut butter is now more expensive, the demand for jelly will be lower. And this is represented by a left shift of the demand curve. One can also think about relationships which are which are substitute in nature. Another classic example would be Coke and Pepsi, right? So if price of Pepsi goes up, what would you expect the demand for Coke, right? If Pepsi is more expensive, people will buy less of Pepsi and substitute it with Coke, and hence the demand for Coke will be higher. And this can be captured by a right shift of the demand curve, right? So this is higher demand, higher demand. Similarly, one can keep on doing this for every single factor. Say you expect income to go up, your future income to go up, your current demand would be higher. Take an example: you're about to graduate, and right when you're about to graduate, you expect you have a nice offer letter in hand, and you expect the future income to go up, and your current demand for restaurant or say tourism, or you want to take a vacation or anything, would be higher. So future expected income to go up, the current demand goes up. And similarly, future price will affect the current demand. If you expect the price of gasoline to be higher tomorrow, you would fill up the gas today and not wait for it tomorrow. Similarly, you can think about taste and preferences. If preferences change, demand will be affected. People prefer new phones over old phones, and hence preferences are changing, so the demand for new phones will be higher, so the demand will shift right for new phones. And similarly, for number of buyers, when there are more buyers, the demand will be higher, right? And every time demand goes up, graphically speaking, it will be represented by a right shift of the curve, and when the demand goes down, graphically it is represented by the left shift of the curve. Remember, demand is measured horizontally, right? So right, more is on the right side and less is on the left side.